What's happening? A good Monday morning to all of you. Thanks for joining me. As always, it is much appreciated. I want to get to the Patriots in a minute, but first, bit of a show announcement here. That's right. Bit of a Nick Cattle show announcement with all of you today on this Monday. We are becoming a Patriots exclusive podcast. This will be Patriots only, not yet. More details in a second, but we are going to be a Patriots exclusive podcast shortly. The juice, not worth the squeeze, my friends on YouTube, to do 5 days a week of some other sports. Frankly, when you look at the numbers, 1/4 of the audience is into the Celtics, less than that into the Bruins, maybe even less than that into the Red Sox. So I need to devote my energy with this podcast. I need to devote 100% of my energy to the New England Patriots. And that's what I am going to do. This week, business as usual, no changes, all 5 days, 11 a.m. Next week, week of the 4th of July, I'm taking off, kind of. No podcasts next week. But if you want to hear me, you want to hear my thoughts, I'll actually be on 98.5 on Sunday this coming weekend. I'll be on 98.5 July 3rd night, 7 to 11 solo. I'll be on the morning show on July 5th. So if you want to hear me and my thoughts, I will be on the air 98.5 next week. No podcasts next week. Starting Monday, July 8th, we will be going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. sharp, exclusive New England Patriots content. If you like or love the conversations I have about the Celtics, the Bruins, the Red Sox, other stuff, you can find that part-time 98.5. You can also check out my Patreon page, $5 a month. That's where I will be doing all the other sports. But this podcast starting on Monday, July 8th, going to be only New England Patriots content. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, live at 11 a.m. So that's the news. Before I get to the Patriots, I've got to bring this up here. Marilyn, who is a longtime listener, longtime supporter of the program, sends a $25 super chat this morning and says, "Happy birthday to me. When I was young, I often gave gifts to my mom on my birthday." It's a great idea. Since she is gone, sorry, Marilyn, I randomly hand them out to people in my world whom I appreciate. Looking forward to more great pod content this season. Marilyn, man, what a great message. What a fantastic way to start my week. Fantastic way to send your appreciation. I can't say more than what says there. Happy birthday to you. Hopefully you have a fantastic birthday. Hopefully you have a great birthday week. And again, can't say enough towards the $25 super chat to show your appreciation. You have consistently shown your appreciation throughout this time. So again, can't say enough. Got another birthday. My goodness, JB Brown. Today is also my birthday. Thanks for the pod. I'm a heck on no extending God chow, vacationing in Maine for the 4th, so we'll listen to you. Thank you, JB, for the $20 super chat. Means an awful lot. As I say all the time, that's how we survive with this podcast, and that's really why we're moving to Patriots exclusive content with this pod on Monday, July 8th, and going 3 days a week, because more bang for the buck, right? I think you get better content going 3 days a week instead of 5. Patriots exclusive, give you everything you need to know. When we get into the season, we can recap games, preview games, and I also have some ideas about football season. I might be adding some more content. This brain is brewing up some ideas during the time off next week, and I've been thinking about other things to do football-wise, so you want to stay tuned for that. But thank you, JB, for the super chat. Again, I can't say enough thanks and appreciation to all of you who have stood by this podcast from day one. So, just one more reminder. 2 weeks from today, July 8th, Patriots only podcast. That's what the Nick Cattle show will be. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 11 a.m. No podcasts next week, but you can check me out on 98.5 Sunday afternoon, 2 to 5 solo. Wednesday, July 3rd, that night solo, 7 to 11. And then July 5th, Friday morning, I will be part of the morning show with Ryan Johnston and Kendra Middleton. If you want any Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics talk, you can check me out on 98.5, or you can head to my Patreon page. It's $5 a month. All right, Patriots, let's get to it. Elliott Wolf is obviously not Bill Belichick. And I say that because he has continued to make retaining his own players and retaining good players a top priority. And yes, Belichick retained his players throughout his tenure, but not as often as Elliott Wolf has in this first offseason. And not only that, it's the nature of retaining these players. What do I mean by that? Well, here's what I mean. There's not much hassle. It seems like these contract negotiations have gone pretty easily for the guys that the Patriots wanted to bring back. Now, Kyle Duggar, there was a little bit of a situation with the transition tag. I would imagine that Duggar, after looking at it in hindsight, doesn't mind how the Patriots handled that. They wanted to keep him here. They worked on an extension, and he got paid the money. So I'm sure he's fine with how everything unfolded. But you look at, what's going on with these contracts, there's not much hassle. There's not much haggling between team and player from what we've heard. Jacoby Myers, we keep using that example because it really is the best and most recent example of how things went with Belichick, especially in the more recent years before he left the organization or was asked to leave. Myers, you're talking about $1 million difference. Doesn't seem like Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo are going to drive a hard stance at the negotiating table if we're talking about $1 million or $2 million. So you're starting to look at these guys not only being retained, but being retained near or at the top of the market. And so it's a completely different approach business-wise. Is it the better approach? We'll have to wait and see. We have no idea right now. I like retaining good players. I think it's smart business to retain good players. I would expect the Celtics to retain Derek White and get him on an extension pretty soon. I would expect them to retain Jason Tatum on a long-term Supermax deal. Keeping your good players in town, in-house, is a great idea. We'll see if these guys actually pay it forward for other dudes, which we'll get into in a minute, and if they will reward Elliott Wolf and Mayo in their decision-making this offseason by playing not only as good, but better football moving forward with their extensions in hand. But don't get it twisted. When you sign guys to extensions, when you sign guys to contracts, there are a lot of pocket watchers in the locker room, and that could cause some issues. Mike Reese at ESPN wrote about this over the weekend. Devon Gottschall is among a group of players with a desire to redo their contracts. Joshua Uche also seemed to be working off a different script. He was mostly practicing by himself while the rest of the team was going through 11-on-11s, an unusual situation for a non-injured player. It sparked the question of whether he too is part of that group referenced by Mayo, despite just re-signing with the team in March. Reese writes, meanwhile, veteran outside linebacker Matthew Judon was a full participant in mandatory minicamp after skipping most of the team's voluntary work earlier in the spring. He twice declined to answer questions from reporters, but said all the right things about his contract status in a radio interview with 100.7 WZLX. Big spending can have a trickle-down effect on others on the team. Mark Dominic, former Buccaneers general manager, said he had to be, quote, extremely, unquote, aware of how contracts would be received in the locker room and agent community when he was beginning his tenure. Here's what Dominic told Reese, quote, you are going to start setting your precedent organizationally of who you are and what you're going to be. If you extend a player that just finished up year 3, every agent in the country is going to call in and say, I saw you just did a guy after 3 years. My guy is available too. Or my guy is going to be available next year. You just have to make a decision on what's going to be your consistency. Reese writes, this is the ideal time to talk. So when players return for the start of training camp, it's all about football. Don't forget to give us that like, thumbs up. Really helps us beat that algorithm on YouTube. Give us that thumbs up if you love the idea of us going Patriots exclusive starting 2 weeks from today. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 11 a.m. live on YouTube. Give us that thumbs up for that idea and that change. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. If you love Patriots and you said, Nick, I got a little tired of the Celtics, the Red Sox, and Bruins stuff. I just want Patriot stuff. Well, now you've got it. Starting 2 weeks from today on this podcast, you can subscribe, trying to get to 3,500 subscribers, rate and review, Spotify, Apple Pods. If Judon does not get done, We're about a month away from training camp. If Judon does not get done, it makes you wonder, will a trade happen? Now, I don't think a trade happens. I don't want a trade to happen unless you believe that Keon White is ready to step up. And I mean step up big, play 60% of the snaps or so. If the Patriots staff believes that White can make that kind of impact and play that amount of snaps, then I'd be more open to the idea of trading Judon. But you need a consistent edge player that is an impact kind of guy. Jennings is great for what he is, but he's not necessarily super impact, doesn't get after the quarterback consistently. Joshua Uche, impact in the pass rush, but he is a sub-package kind of player. I'm talking 3 down, impact kind of guy on the edge. The only one you have on this roster, as of what we know, is Judon. So unless Mayo and company believe that White is ready to take that significant step, I would say that you want to keep Judon in town. But it'll be something to watch. If a Judon extension doesn't happen, then I have to wonder, and we have to wonder, will Judon be heading somewhere else via a trade? Second guy, Joshua Uche. Now, I've been trying to dig through the internet to find this answer, and I can't find it. I even tweeted at Nick C Radio, if you want to follow me, at Nick C Radio. I even tweeted today, I'm trying to find this answer. If somebody signs a contract in March, can that contract be redone in June or July? I know the NBA has certain rules. Once guys sign contracts, there's a moratorium period. I don't know if that's the case in the NFL. I looked all over the place. I tweeted. Hopefully someone gets me that answer with some evidence of said answer. So I don't know if Uche can redo a deal since he just signed a contract in March. That would be weird to me. There would be a lot of loopholes with that kind of situation. I mean, I just can't imagine the NFL would allow teams to sign players for like a 1-year deal and then come back and circumvent the cap system and give them a new deal shortly after that. I can't imagine that's the case. I just can't imagine. That's why the NBA doesn't allow it, because the circumvention of the cap. You can play a lot of screwy games. So I don't know what's up with Uche. Mandatory minicamp, did not really get involved at all. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Godchow. Godchow's fascinating because he's highly effective in what he does. He helps stop the run. He arguably opens up pass rush lanes for other Patriots because of his big-time presence in the middle. He's not somebody who is going to be explosive like Christian Barmore, but he gets the job done at a high level when it comes to stopping the run. And the Patriots last year were one of the best defenses stopping the run. And if you can make an offense one-dimensional, that helps you attack that offense. It helps you attack that quarterback. So how much are they willing to go with Godchow? Do they want to give him this big extension? Do they want to give him just a 1-year deal tacked on? Would Godchow be okay with just 1 year tacked on? We don't know. But I do think Godchow is important to this program because the interior defensive line, there's not a ton of depth. You've got Armon Watts. You've got Equale, right? You've got a couple of guys in the mix there. You could maybe move Wise inside interior defensive lineman. He also plays a little bit on the edge, as we know, so you can move him around. I don't know if they want to move White around. It looked like White was almost primarily on the edge during minicamp. So you also have to look at the depth or lack thereof at the interior defensive line. I would not go crazy to give Godchow this huge extension, but I do think he's a pretty important part of this defense. And we know if this team is going to be competitive, if this team is going to make a push to, I don't know, let's just say 8 wins, 7, 8 wins. If they're going to make a push and be in the conversation through at least the first half of the year or so, this defense needs to ball out. And Godchow would be a rather big part of the equation. I do like Watts, and I think Watts will be able to help, but Godchow is somebody that I would like to keep in town for at least another year, if not 2. All right, let's jump to Teresa Grant. My freaking goodness. A $50 super chat. You guys are coming at me pretty big here on this Monday with these super chats. Thank you so much, Terry. Was great to hear you on 98.5 yesterday. Thank you for the great Patriots podcast talk. Thank you. Terry is another person to go along with, JB to go along with, Marilyn. We're talking some of the OGs of the pod. Been with us from early on in the process. So I thank you, Terry. That's an unbelievable super chat. Thank you so much. It was fun doing the show yesterday on 98.5. I'll be back again this Sunday, 2 to 5. Nobody with me on Sunday. So I'm going to be doing 3 hours on Sunday, June 30th from 2 to 5 on 98.5, all by my lonesome. So swing on by and check that out. I'll be also doing Wednesday night, July 3rd solo for 4 hours. So I think a lot of me, the 7 hours combined through those two shows, just doing solo, just hosting and doing some headlines. But I will be there with you on Sunday afternoon, Wednesday night, and then Friday morning, 6 to 10 July 5th with Ryan Johnston and Kendra. Should be a good time. So thank you, Terry. I can't say enough. Blown away by the $50 super chat. After the huddle, ATH, $5 super chat. What's happening, buddy? How was Friday? Also, I believe it was Evan that said if the Stevenson extension is more than $12 million, it may be an issue. Thoughts? Well, the Stevenson, I don't know if you mean $12 million on the AAV, $12 million in guarantees. I would imagine Evan was saying the average annual value. Don't have to worry about that because it's at $9 million. I thought the Stevenson contract was fair. You can go check out the podcast. I don't know if you have already that I did on Stevenson, that breaking news podcast. I thought it was a fair deal. You could argue it's a slight overpay, but when you compare it to DeAndre Swift's contract, it is a very similar contract as far as guarantees in the AAV. Swift is at $8 million. Stevenson's at $9 million. Swift got about $15 million guaranteed. Stevenson got $17 million guaranteed. Swift has 1 year in the NFL rushing for 1,000 yards. Stevenson has 1 year in the NFL rushing for 1,000 yards. Swift's best receiving season in the NFL was 62 catches for 400-plus yards. Stevenson's best receiving season in the NFL was 69 catches for 400-plus receiving yards. And if we're worried about injuries, DeAndre Swift has an injury history with the head, the neck area. He's had multiple injuries. Stevenson has had some injury issues. So if you compare the Stevenson contract to the Swift contract, I don't think it's some crazy dramatic overpay to Stevenson. I think that's pretty much where the market is right now. And remember, the cap is going to continue to go up. These contracts that look like slight overpays right now, next year when this deal kicks in, I don't think it's going to look like an overpay, especially given Christian McCaffrey's big-time extension he signed with San Francisco at $19 million AAV. So all those things play a role. As far as Friday, had a hell of a time. Hell of a time. The parade was awesome. I thought the duck boats went way too fast. I would have slowed it down a little bit. I mean, literally, I stood in the same spot for about an hour and a half for about 10 minutes of duck boats to fly by. We were at really the beginning, me and a friend of mine. It was a great time, though. I mean, Joe Mazzulla was fantastic. He was going crazy. Love to see it. Love to see Tatum celebrating with the champagne and with Deuce. Jaylen Brown with a smile from ear to ear the entire time, flexing, spinning the basketball on his finger. Just all the stuff that you saw. Mike Gorman chilling out, drinking during the parade, loving life. A perfect see you later, we appreciate you type of moment for Mike Gorman for his career that he had with the Celtics for 43 years. So I thought it was a great day. Only 2 arrests. They're saying what, like 1.5 million people? Only 2 arrests. And here's one thing I'll say, too, before I get back to the Patriots, about what I saw on Friday. The coolest thing about Friday, it wasn't the beers at 9 o'clock. It wasn't hanging out at Hurricanes with Zoe and Beetle and some of my friends. That was cool. The best thing was seeing the different demographics that were reached. When you're at the parade, we're talking, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old or young. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, brown, none of it. And I thought that was just awesome. to see the amount of people in that crowd getting along, celebrating. Frankly, you don't see that in 2024, right? In the age of Twitter, in the age of beefs, in the age of back and forth, nonstop, just bickering and bitching, we don't see a lot of positivity and celebratory vibes with people. People like to be thrown in certain buckets. I hate that. I've always said a lot of people look at this world as black or white. I see a lot of gray. That's how I live my life. Not telling others how to live theirs, but it's really cool when you see over 1 million people, all sorts of backgrounds and demographics, ages, nationalities, skin color, beliefs, all kind of lumped into one, and everybody is getting along. Everybody's just a Celtics fan, loving life and soaking in that moment. That was the best part of Friday. All right, let's go back to the Patriots and this idea of contracts, these extensions. Could they create some problems in the locker room? A bunch of pocket watchers at Gillette Stadium. This is going to, test Gerard Mayo's approach. If he can handle the guys that want contracts, if those contracts don't get done and those players stay on this roster, it is going to test Mayo's approach, connecting with players, building relationships, making sure everybody is on the same page. When you look at Gerard Mayo's philosophy, he wants all these boats in the same direction. And if Matthew Judon, in his heart of hearts, wants that contract extension and does not get that contract extension, does he rock the boat? Does Godchow rock the boat? There are other guys on the last year of their deal. Jonathan Jones, Wise, Jabril Peppers, Jelani Tavai. Those guys are primary players in this defense. So Gerard Mayo has to make sure that these players, if they don't get their contracts extended, that they're focused on football and that the group remains in harmony. Because all of a sudden, you get a couple of guys who are peeved, it could upset everything that you're trying to build. So that will be a test for Gerard Mayo if some of these guys don't get their contracts done that they want and they're not happy. Absolutely something to keep an eye on. But I do feel that Elliott Wolf and Mayo are both ready for those reactions. Wolf has had a ton of experience in the NFL. He understands that guys who don't get extensions aren't going to be thrilled. He understands the nature of the business. And Mayo was a player for a while, right? So if anybody understands that guy's making what? What am I making? If anybody understands that, it would be Mayo on this coaching staff, because he played in the NFL. He played at a high level. He made good money. So Mayo can relate to these players. So I think they understand what they might be looking at if some of these deals aren't done. But it's still something that we have to keep in mind as we get ready for training camp in about a month or so. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Those 3 things help this podcast an awful lot. Doesn't take much time, doesn't cost you anything, and we appreciate it every single time that you do 1, 2, or all 3 of those things. Liking, that thumbs up. Don't forget the podcast subscriptions. We want those to go up. And comments. Comments are great. Backyard Cyclist. Oh, no. It's not my birthday. It's not my birthday, Backyard. It was JB's birthday. It's Marilyn's birthday. My birthday is August 12th, if you're wondering. So I'm still about a month and a half away from my birthday. I don't know if you could take the $20 back. You know what we'll say, Backyard? We'll just say that your $20 super chat today will go towards my birthday on August 12th. So I appreciate the very premature or incredibly late happy birthday gesture. But I do appreciate your $20. It means a lot to me. And I guarantee you it will be spent on some good things. So thank you so much. But the birthday wishes today are for Marilyn and JB. And Backyard Cyclist is another follower of the podcast who also partakes in the Patreon page, $5 a month. Again, we're moving to Patriots only 2 weeks from today. Patriots exclusive podcast Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. If you want more Patriots content, but most of all, if you want some Red Sox, Celtics, and Bruins content, you can check out that Patreon page. Thank you, Backyard. After the huddle, another super chat, $5 super chat. When the Saints won the Super Bowl, I got to attend the parade, a memory I'll never forget. Also, Tulane University has $3 beers. Beats a $13 beer any day. Yeah, I saw that a bunch of college football programs are trying to beef with each other, and they're trying to see who can charge the least amount for a beer on Saturdays. What could possibly go wrong with a bunch of 21, 22-year-olds, if not 19, 20-year-olds? You know, those licenses sometimes in college, they're not always on the up and up. But what could possibly go wrong with like $1 beers? New Orleans, I've been in New Orleans a couple of times on a few occasions. I think 3 or 4 times. Really like it. Really like it. Bourbon Street, love it. First time or second time. Then I really go for the music after that. The partying and all of that was like the first or second time you go. But New Orleans, awesome kind of vibe down in New Orleans. So I'm sure those parades were something else to be a part of. All right, let's talk about Drake Maye. What is Drake Maye going to do for the next 4 weeks? Because the rookies recently left the facility. They did some extra strength and conditioning work after mandatory minicamp was over. They are now officially away from the facility, and they are home. And so now you wonder, what is Drake Maye going to do while he's down in North Kakalaka for the next month before training camp kicks in? Rookies have to show up for training camp on July 19th. Vets have to report by July 23rd. So that's the timeline. So the next 4 weeks or so, what is Maye going to do? Well, you wonder if he'll stop working on fundamentals. If you were wondering that, if you were asking if Maye would stop working on those fundamentals that he's been working on since he was drafted, that answer is unequivocally no. Mike Reese gave us a Drake Maye update. ESPN.com, Reese writes, Maye plans to work with longtime NFL coach Clyde Christensen at their alma mater, UNC, where Christensen serves as an advisor to head coach Mac Brown. So this is great news. Great news. Christensen is legitimate. I mean, this guy is a legitimate quarterbacks coach. He is a legitimate offensive coordinator. He's worked with Peyton Manning. He's worked with Andrew Luck. He has worked with Tom Brady down in Tampa. You talk about those 3 quarterbacks. If you want to learn from greatness, does it get really any better in the past 10, 15 years than Manning, Brady, and Andrew Luck? Those are 3 of the best quarterbacks that we have seen in the past couple of decades. And Christensen has worked with every single one of those 3 guys. So if you ask me, Drake Maye working with Christensen, I'm happy with it. I think it's fantastic. And he also has a relationship with Maye. Christensen was at UNC last year. He was an offensive analyst, quote unquote, but he is somebody that has worked with Maye. So they have that relationship. They have a level of comfort with each other, which is vital. You don't want Maye parachuting somebody in that he doesn't know for a month and can kind of wipe away anything that he learned over the last couple of months here in New England. You want somebody who has coached in the NFL, that has coached high-level quarterbacks, and has a relationship with Maye. Check, check, check with Christensen. I would also have to imagine that Christensen has spoken with the Patriots staff, and those communications have been clear, and I'm sure they've happened a decent amount, so Christensen understands what the Patriots have been working on regarding Maye. And Maye will tell Christensen This is what we've been working on, and they will continue that work down in North Carolina, which is also important to this conversation because Maye's not flying out to Los Angeles. He's not flying down to Miami. He is staying in North Carolina. So this allows him to see his family, spend quality time with his brothers, spend quality time with his girl, spend quality time with his parents. He gets to stay home where he's comfortable. He gets to work with the coach that he's comfortable with. He doesn't have to worry about traveling, certain things getting in the way. It's his home base. Wakes up in the morning, leaves his house, goes and works with Christensen, right back home for dinner. Continuing that routine. So that is what Drake Maye will be doing over the next month. He will be working hard with Christensen down in North Carolina, preparing for training camp. He will report by July 19th. And let's not forget, Drake Maye was in the building. He was in the TD Garden for Game 5. So Drake Maye has already brought a championship to Boston and the New England area. Already a great draft pick. Bringing home the Larry O.B. So shout out to Drake Maye. In the building twice in the playoffs for the Celtics. Both of those games were wins. I believe it was the Jaylen Brown crazy 3 against Indiana overtime win. And then Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Drake was there at both of those games. He's 2-0 as a Celtics fan. You'll love to see it. ATH, another $5 super chat. Thank you. Have you thought about attending the Super Bowl experience? It's in NOLA this year. We're taking the podcast to the city, even if New England isn't in it. I've experienced the Super Bowl. Very, very fortunate. I don't take it for granted. I have worked 5 or 6 radio rows. I worked a number of them when I was in Virginia. So that was a great time. I interviewed a lot of cool people and big names, and just a humbling experience to be able to have those kinds of interviews and talk to those people. I remember I interviewed Chandler Jones his rookie year. That was fun. I interviewed John Jones as a UFC fan. That was a big deal. I interviewed Conor McGregor. So I interviewed a lot of football players, a ton of football players, J.J. Watt and others all over the board. So I experienced Radio Row at least a handful of times. So I've seen the Super Bowl experience with, the rings and the busts and all of that. I've been there. It's a great time. And I also went to the Super Bowl. I went to the Rams Patriots Super Bowl as a fan. I could have gone and tried to get one of those credentials and sat with the media, but I wanted to drink some beer before the game. I wanted to drink some beer during the game. I wanted to cheer and boo. I wanted to be a fan for my only Super Bowl game experience. So in Atlanta, I was there. And I paid a ton of money for the ticket. Do I regret it? Hell to the no. If they lost, would I have regretted how much I paid? Hell to the yes. But they won. And I am fortunate to say that I had the financial capability to pay the money I paid for the ticket, and that I was there at Tom Brady, Gronk, Edelman, Belichick's final Patriots Super Bowl win. I will remember that for the rest of my life. So I've had some pretty cool experiences Super Bowl week. And again, don't take it for granted. I don't take anything for granted that I've been able to do because I get to talk into a freaking microphone. So New Orleans, we'll see. I don't think the wife would hate going down to New Orleans in February. And it's around Valentine's Day. We haven't been down to New Orleans in a number of years. So if Kelly's cool with it, we'll see. Appreciate the super chat, ATH, as always. All right. If you're just joining us, want to remind you here, had an announcement at the beginning of this podcast. We are becoming a Patriots exclusive podcast 2 weeks from today. This starts on Monday, July 8th. This week, business as usual. Next week, podcast is off for the 4th of July. Many of you wouldn't listen anyway. It's the 4th of July. And with the 4th on a Thursday, I have to imagine a lot of people are taking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. If you got a floating holiday, you got Friday off, you take the 4th off. So I'm sure many of you will be out of work next week. But if you do want to listen to me next week, I will be on 98.5. I'll be on 98.5 on Sunday solo from 2 to 5. I'll be on Wednesday night, July 3rd, 7 to 11 solo. And I will be on the morning show Friday from 6A to 10A with Ryan Johnson and Kendra Middleton. So I will be out there. I will be talking sports, just not on this podcast next week. I'll be on 98.5. Starting Monday, July 8th, we'll be going Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Not 5 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m., live here on YouTube, talking just Patriots. I have some other ideas, football ideas. I'm bouncing around. I'm excited about one of them, but I'm working on creating something else for football fans that I think will be really cool. I'm working on that. But if you want Celtics, Bruins, Red Sox talk, you can check me out on 98.5. You can also check out my Patreon page. $5 a month, $1.25 a week. Give a bunch of extra content exclusively to the Patreon members. It's patreon.com/Nick Cattles, Cattles. I want to close with this thought. I just want to mention the Celtics here, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday on 98.5 with Kendra. But the Celtics this year were really the anti-ESPN champions. And I love that about this team. They didn't have an MVP that the national media could drool over and just talk about nonstop or question when that MVP didn't play that well. So they had no MVP, no lightning rod, Draymond Green type personality. So they didn't really have anybody who was super polarizing, even though they try to make Jason Tatum polarizing. I'm talking about the personality of the human being. And there was no drama with this Celtics team. So that's why you saw a lot of people, especially nationally, trying to create the drama, trying to fabricate things, embellish certain stories. No drama. I mean, how many controversial quotes did we see from the Celtics this year? I don't know if there were any. You might count them on one hand. I know some people down in Miami are freaking out about Jason Tatum's comment before the parade on Friday in the TD Garden about how Miami's always an easy trip, but really no controversial quotes, no in-team fighting, no power struggle between Brown and Tatum. The players respected their coach. Coach doesn't call out his players often. Your top two stars, mostly understated guys in press conferences. They're not going to bite on some of the bait that's thrown out there. I mean, when you look at the Celtics this year, they were really the anti-drama, anti-national, talking heads, storyline, debate show kind of team. And the fact that they dominated the way they did in the regular season and postseason and shoved it down everybody's throat was fabulous. And this team, to me, is one of the most likable teams that I've watched. Derek White, Drew Holiday, Big Al, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Hauser, Pritchard. I mean, this team is full of likable guys. And I think some of the media hates that because I'll be honest with you, I've done this job for more than 10 years. It is much easier to come up with content when it's negative content. When somebody says something stupid, when somebody does something stupid, that's a 3-hour, 4-hour show like that. Easy. It's very tough to just sit back and enjoy things when you're in the media. I try to enjoy it more than anybody, as much as anybody. If I had a talk show last week, it would have been a celebration for the full week long. Music, great vibes, celebrating what Joe Mazzulla and Tatum and Brown did. But I get it. Some people do the job differently. They are qualified. They are very successful. There's more than one way to skin a cat. But this team was an issue for debate shows because there just wasn't a lot of controversial meat on the bone. Fact. Winning, especially winning in dominant fashion, is boring, especially for the national media. People get bored with greatness. People get bored with a team that just keeps winning. That's why people got bored. They got angry. They got frustrated when the Patriots just kept winning with Tom Brady. It was boring to them. It was boring to outside of New England that Tom Brady was going to AFC championship games almost every freaking year. That was boring to people because they couldn't create something. They couldn't dig into that content. It's tough to say, hey, Tom Brady at another AFC championship game. The Patriots are at another Super Bowl. Back to you, Jimmy. It's difficult, and it irritates them. And so they're in the business of driving content. And it's more challenging when the team doesn't say anything controversial, keeps on winning, gets to the postseason, and mows on through the postseason. That's why they talked a lot about the path. And they talked a lot about, was Jason Tatum happy when Jaylen Brown won the MVP in the Eastern Conference Finals? That's what happens. And that's what I loved about the Celtics this year. All they did was win, 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 no matter what. And that was boring for some people. Me, it was delightful. 80-21, banner 18, mwah, chef's kiss, 16-3 in the playoffs. Thunder Francis, $10 super chat. Congrats on the increased radio airtime, Patriots exclusive podcast, and continued Patreon. All Nick all day. I don't even think my wife wants all Nick all day. Should we expect surprise free agent signing before camp? Stephon Gilmore. You know, Thunder, if I can call you Thunder, right now I don't expect that. I'm not anticipating a signing, especially one that we would, deem a surprise signing. I think that Wolf and Mayo are of the mind that they want to go into camp with this team right now and see what they've got. And Gilmore is a perfect example. Alex Austin, by all accounts, had a really good mandatory minicamp. Had a good training, had a good OTA process, had a really good mandatory minicamp. And right now, Austin is on the cusp of taking that cornerback 2 job from Jonathan Jones if he continues to play the way he has played. If Austin gets to training camp and he gives you that level of play, Jonathan Jones could slide inside and play slot corner. He could go back to free safety, and you could have a Christian Gonzalez, Alex Austin outside cornerback tandem in 2024. I think Wolf and Mayo and DeMarcus Covington as well, they want to see if Austin continues to play at that level. Another guy is Isaiah Bolden. He had some moments in minicamp. They want to see what they have. And if Austin starts to fall off with pads on, if Bolden starts to fall off with pads on, if Jonathan Jones starts to look his age a little bit more, then I would believe Wolf will start to look at a Stephon Gilmore. But right now, I think they want to roll into training camp with what they've got and see if everything's okay. The same could be said for the offensive line. Greg Bedard. I know some people don't like Greg. He's a personal friend of mine. I work with him on the podcast. I appreciate Greg's history and knowledge of offensive line play. And he is one of a few people that I listen to carefully when they talk about O-line. And so far, Greg has been, I don't want to say impressed. That might be too much of a stretch. But Greg likes what he has seen from Chuks Okorafor at left tackle. So Wolf and Mayo, I think they go into training camp and they see if Okorafor can continue to hold his water on the left side. If Okorafor is a little shaky, then you could easily see the Patriots go out and look at a David Bakhtiari or a Charles Leno or a DJ Humphries, some of these guys that are still out there and available. Then you might try to find that Band-Aid. But I think the plan right now, you go into training camp with the guys you have and you see what they do. You get through the early stretch of training camp. You might even have a joint practice or two. And then you decide, then you evaluate, all right, we need to make a move. Alex Austin is not working out. Isaiah Bolden's not working out. Jonathan Jones is looking a little long in the tooth. We got to find another cornerback. Let's go talk to Stephon. Let's see if he's willing to come here to New England. All right, Chooks Okorafor. Chooks has looked a little shaky at left tackle. Let's get Charles Leno's agent on the phone. Let's check in on Bakhtiari physically. Let's maybe run him through a medical. But for right now, for the next month, I think we're going to see the status quo. I think they're going to stay, where they are roster-wise and see how these guys perform or don't perform at training camp. And then if they have to make a necessary change, they will. All right, that'll do it for today. Appreciate all of y'all. I mean, a banging super chat day out of nowhere. Was not expecting that on a quiet week. Here you are, throwing super chats my way. Happy birthday to JB Brown. Happy birthday to Marilyn. Thank you for supporting this show. Before you go, like, comment, subscribe, Spotify, Apple Pods, peeps, rate and review. I'm back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Until then, this has been The Nick Cattle Show.